Okay, so I'm going to go through the process here of diagnosing. Actually, I've already diagnosed and know what the issue is, and thought I'd do this video. Anyway, this side of the driveway is zone 1, and it wasn't coming on yesterday whenever we started this up because we're activating systems right at the moment. So first thing I did was I went to the controller, which is in the garage, and tested the ohms on the wire that's connected to zone 1, and I didn't get any ohms. So that tells me two things. Well, one of two things. Either we've got a cut wire, or the solenoid's bad on that valve and needs to be changed out, and it's not activating to open it up to allow the water to flow. So I went to the valve and I ohmed the solenoid, and the solenoid was good. So a lot of times outside the garage or whatever, there is a connection box, and that's what I found right here. And you see my pulsar, which is a fault cut wire locator. So I put that on. First I tested, made sure there was 24 volts from the controller to out here in the box, and there was. So then I got my pulsar out and I followed this line all the way around the house, and it goes along the edge of the house to the valve back here in the back. It feeds all the way around this fire pit. It comes along this edge, and it comes along this edge. And this is the other part of the fault locator. And the valves are over there, and the one closest to the edge is the valve that operates those heads on the other side of the driveway. So obviously over the winter we had the termite people come in and place a termite apparatus in the ground around the house, and he evidently got into this wire right here, because this here, what it does is it tells you which direction down the wire the problem is, and whichever way it jumps first is the way the pulse is coming down that wire. So we move it down here a little closer and it gets more erratic. Okay, then we get it beyond. This termite device, and it goes nuts the other direction. So this locator finds you're cutting your wire no matter where it's out in the yard, and it will tell you exactly where your deal is at. See, that's not quite center of the A-frame, that right there, the termite device. And we'll move it just a little bit more, and as you can see, that needle jumps to the left first and then it pops back to the right. We put it off center again. It does the same thing in the other direction. So our cut in our wire for zone 1 is right there underneath that termite installation. So now we'll go through the process of digging that up, and I'll continue the video from there. So there's the cut wire. And he could have got the other wire that went to that other valve and the main line as well. whenever he put his termite, whenever he installed that in the ground, but all he cut was one wire. So anyway, we'll get this repaired and I'll continue the video. So now I have it back together, and in the process of him digging that hole for the termite bait trap, he also nicked that second red wire, which goes to that second valve right over there. So instead of waiting on a repair to happen, like another short to that other valve, I went ahead and took care of that right now, so there's not going to be an issue later on with eroding copper in the ground because it doesn't have any insulation on it. So I'm not going to put this trap back in the ground. That's something that I'm going to leave to the termite people, but I'm going to go ahead and cover this up. Then we'll put everything else back together wire-wise and check it out at the controller. So now I have all my wires back together, and those blue wire nuts, they are gel filled so that it protects the copper wire whenever you make the connection, so that water doesn't get in there and erode your wire where it's connected. Because a lot of times if you use regular wire nuts like electricians use that don't have any gel in them, then over time that copper and even the connection in the wire nut can erode, and it can make a disconnect as well. So in irrigation, because we're working with water all the time and it's underground, we use a gel filled, and that protects our wire. And the connection that we made underground, and of course being in a box is a plus too, because then it's not right against the soil, which also helps erode stuff. So I've already turned this on at the controller, and as you can see, it's running. So we'll turn it off and on a couple times and see how that works. Okay, so it's off. Now we'll turn it back on. And it come back up, and it's working. All right, so we got another zone going.